Yes, Shrub?
Hey Daniel,
Oh my gosh, it's JT!
do you know what time it is?
Gnome, do you?
I do. It's time for us to show you how to make a gnome.
On this holiday edition of Just My DIY, we're going to take an old tomato cage that no longer cages tomatoes very well.
A branch from the Christmas tree that is no longer attached.
And other bits we have around the shop from the collection of things that are DIY.
Yep, and we're going to show you how to make a quick and easy gnome. So stick around and let's get started.
So the first step was we need to trim our tomato cage down to size. And we tried a variety of non-power tools with everything failing in an attempt to make things easier. We just went with the power tool.
We were trying to make this where everyone could do it. We will say you can use a hacksaw on metal, but we had this oscillating multi-tool, so we went ahead and used it because it would be faster. But there are other saws that you might have around the house that could cut this.
So here we're just removing the top ring. The second ring, that where my hands are, already has a break in it.
So we went ahead and added a break in the middle of that ring across the entire circumference, and that was so we'd have a little more flexibility in the overall shape.
We're trimming it down to the height we want our gnome to be, which is taller than a typical gnome.
He's a big gnome. And then we're going to zip tie the tops together right underneath where those ridges from the top ring were. That keeps the zip tie in place.
Careful, these ends are McStabby.
Why are you so awkward?
It's the happiest time of the year.
Not the creepiest though, right? Okay.
Now we're taking our spare branches from things like Christmas trees and Christmas tree farms and adorning them to the mutated cage.
You heard it first.
I will kill him! It's tickling me! Can't work like this.
Under pressure.
We're just attaching these with little green zip ties, which worked out perfectly throughout. We start by putting our largest branches on first and shaping them a little bit around the cage, and then we'll go in and fill in with the smaller branches. And then once you have all the branches the way you like it, just go in, trim off the extra little tails on the zip ties, and give it a little trim at the bottom as well. Now it's time for the hat. I started off with just a piece of regular poster board. That was just to get the idea of the shape, the placement, and that sort of thing. This actually came in handy later, as you'll see. But to make the red hat, I measured around the circumference at the base and then laid out my fabric. For this, draw a line up the middle and then down each side. It does not have to be perfect, but then you'll do a curve at the bottom. So cut along those lines, and then along the bottom. Then I do another slight trim once I folded it in half. And you could sew this, absolutely. Again, we're trying to keep this super easy, so I just used hot glue. I didn't take into account that the glue would cool so fast because the garage was cold. But no problem. I went back in on the spots where it needed it and added a little more hot glue. And now we have a hat and a dog. Now we're gonna make the mittens. If you have regular mittens, just stuff them, hot glue them, and put them right on there. But I didn't, so I got these mini stockings at the Dollar Tree, but I don't want the hands to look like stockings. So I'm drawing a little half moon on the bottom to essentially cut off the toe of the stockings. And again, keeping it simple, I'm just going to use a stapler to staple along that line. See? Super easy. Now just flip them right side out. And we're going to stuff them with extra plastic grocery bags. We fit about 2 bags in each of these, and it was the perfect thickness for stubby little hands. Once again, keeping it easy, no sew on this project for us. Just going to run a line of hot glue right on the inside of the cuff and close it. I did keep the little hanger tag things out just in case I wanted to use them when attaching the gnomes, but ended up not using those. So if you want to, you can cut them off. Totally up to you. Now we have hands. So before we start putting the whole thing together, we're going to trim off the top of the gnome because some of those branches were a little stabby. I decided to use the poster board form underneath for some extra structure, so that just required cutting it off a little bit.
And now we're using a Christmas ornament nose for the gnome. As you see, it hooks right in with a nice ornament hook. And we are stapling the mittens to some of the hanging branches, just making sure that we can kind of hide the staple job. Cover it up. And you kind of see him coming together now. Look at that.
It's a gnome! Yep. It's good to be able to have a second eye to make sure that your hands are even before you staple that second one in. So in a single afternoon, we went from tomato cage to Christmas gnome. We hope you enjoyed this super easy holiday DIY.
And of course, if you did, you should click on that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. And of course, we did use a few materials on this, which you'll see listed down below.
And if you're not watching this on our website, head over to justmydiy.com for more. But speaking of more, Daniel,
There's always more.
there is always more. And I think Gnomie's looking a little lonely out here.
But he looks so comfortable with you beside him.
I'm not staying out here. You know what works great in the cold?
Mittens?
Snowmen. So stay tuned for our next video where we're going to show you how to make a cement snowman. Thanks for watching and happy holidays.
Ow. Ow.